Let's all stop the shame. Welcome to the Hopefulist with me, Wendy McClure. This is where we turn those nasty, negative thoughts into positive and work toward a happy, fulfilled life. Now, let's get started. Welcome and thank you for joining me on the Hopefulist for your dose of inspiration and positivity. Today, I wanted to start with the quote of the day, as always, and listen closely from Jessica Ortner. You can't hate yourself happy. You can't criticize yourself thin. You can't shame yourself worthy. Real change begins with self-love and self-care. No truer words have ever been spoken, and I know that from experience. I wanted to get to the good news. Found an awesome story that I love. A German animal shelter is using Tinder, the dating app, to look for matches for their four-legged friends. They position it as lonely dogs and cats looking for love. And it's been a huge success so far. So it just goes to show a little thinking outside of the box can bring some great results. On to the topic of the day. We're going to be talking about how we shame ourselves. I want to read that quote again because I think it's so important. You can't hate yourself happy. You can't criticize yourself thin. You can't shame yourself worthy. Real change begins with self-love and self-care. My guess is that you, like me, are extremely hard on yourself. We women tend to bash ourselves for every little thing. Our weight, our appearance, the way we raise our children, the type of spouse we are, how we perform at work. The list goes on and on. Did you ever notice that few men do the same? Most men are very accepting of themselves. Even when they put on weight, lose their hair, screw up at work, they're just more comfortable in their own skin and life than us women. We really should take a page from their book when it comes to how to treat ourselves. I mean, have you ever walked in and your husband looking at himself in the mirror saying, "Stupid thighs, I hate how fat you are"? No, because they don't really do that. I mean, some men do, but the mass majority do not. Of course, you all should know the number one rule of the Hopefulist. Anyone know the number one rule of the Hopefulist? Never call yourself bad names. I mean, never, ever, even in jest. These words seep into our subconscious and really affect the way we feel about ourselves. You probably do it and don't even realize it. So the first thing you need to do is start being aware of when you call yourself a name. Say you do something silly and you're like, "Ugh, I'm such an idiot." Yeah, don't do that. We all have moments where we screw up. We all have moments where we, don't necessarily use our head in the best way. So just rephrase it. "Ugh, okay, I could have done that better." Or, whoops, these things happen. So when you start hearing yourself call yourself these names, bonehead, idiot, fat, ugly, remind yourself that you don't want to do that anymore. It's that simple. Once you start paying attention, you will likely find you call yourself names much more often than you realize. We also need to stop holding ourselves to such impossible standards. We have jobs and spouses and children and a house to take care of, and we get frustrated with ourselves when we can't keep up with it all. Doesn't that sound insane when you think about everything you need to do on a daily and weekly basis? Men, and this is starting to change now, mainly worry about their work. Bringing home their part of the salary and then they're done. Think back to way back in the 50s and 60s, women stayed at home, took care of the house, took care of the kids, took care of the laundry, all of that stuff while the men went out and made the money. They brought the money home. They were the providers, while the women took care of everything else. So now, since let's say the 70s, that's when women started going to work on a mass basis, where women needed to go to work to be able to afford the lives that we were living. So women now pick up the one job that men had and add it into all of the other things that they already had to do. Now, like I said, some men this is really changing. A lot of men are pitching in and doing a lot more than they used to. And that should help ease some things up. But some women have help from their spouse and others don't. If you don't expect your spouse to be able to keep up with what your schedule is like, then stop being frustrated with yourself for not keeping up. I know that doesn't solve the problem. I know that these things still need to get done. But bashing yourself and calling yourself names and being frustrated with yourself for not getting it done is certainly not the way to help the situation. Let's talk about when we try to lose weight. Again, we set these impossible standards that are nearly impossible to keep up with. And when we inevitably fall off track one or two times, we're so harsh with ourselves. We get filled with shame and start bashing ourselves worse than we would ever talk to anyone else. I know, because I've done it most of my life. And as far as I have come in my own personal development journey, which is far, I still have a horrible habit of shaming myself when I don't eat the way I hope to. And it's a lot. It's the same with working out. If I start skipping workouts and I think terrible things about myself, my self-talk is horrific, as I'm betting yours is as well. But if I've learned anything in my journey, it's that love, not shame, just like the quote says, is what will set you up for success. I'm still working on setting my health goals and getting them right, but I'm a work in progress, just like all of us. When I do something I'm proud of, I try to remind myself of the good things I have done up until that point. When I do something I'm not proud of, that is, I try to remind myself of the good things I've done up until that point. Now, 3 days of healthy eating doesn't get dismissed because you had ice cream and chips one night after dinner. I focus on the baby steps I've made to get better in this area my whole life. And it will take more baby steps to keep me on the path I want to be on. It is a journey. We need to treat ourselves with kindness. Looking at yourself in the mirror and being disgusted will never get you the life you want. It just sounds ridiculous when you say it, but yet we do it all the time. Treating yourself with grace and learning what works for you and what doesn't will get you the life you want. We all need to stop with the shame and guilt over the mistakes or missteps we make. If we mess up at work, we tend to obsess over it and think the worst possible scenario. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you lose your job over one mistake, you probably shouldn't have been working there to begin with. Hopefully you'll find a better job with a way more understanding boss. Start cutting yourself some slack, for goodness sake, and start embracing yourself for who you are. Find things you love about yourself every day and keep looking for more. The kinder we are to ourselves, the happier we will be, and the more productive we will be, and the better mother we will be, and the better spouse we will be. I think you see where I'm going with this. So read that quote again at the top. Read it again. Stop being so hard on yourself. It will never get you the results you are hoping to achieve. Be the woman you want your daughter to be. In fact, think about your own mother when you are being so harsh with yourself, and think about how much that probably upsets and hurts her. How much will it upset you to think your daughter will be the same way? She's watching you, you know. Break the cycle now. Because once you do, you will realize it was never any way to live, and you don't have to. We all do a ton of things every day we can be proud of. We just don't notice them as much. So focus on those things. and remind yourself of all that you do. We tend to get into routines and forget that at one time it was really hard to make yourself do what comes automatically to you now. You know what would be great? If instead of berating yourself for the things you didn't get done or completing things the way you had hoped, to actually praise yourself for doing all the things that you did right. Even if it wasn't perfect, it got done. How about reacting that way for a change? Love yourself. You are the only person who will be with you from cradle to grave. Start treating yourself like a best friend, because that is what you are. If you like today's episode, please leave a review and hit that subscribe or follow button. That makes a huge difference in how the Hopefulist gets the word out to everybody. And you will be notified whenever a new Hopefulist podcast is available and ready for you. I would be so, so grateful. And then you can praise yourself for doing something so amazing, even if it's just for me. So, how are we feeling now? Are we ready for some love? Or are we ready to love ourselves into the rest of this week? Are you ready to be a badass? I know you got it in you. Now, I'm here cheering you on. Thank you for listening to The Hopefulist. Now, don't you feel good? Make sure you come back next week. See you then. Talked a little over myself. That happens from time to time. Thanks for tuning in.